The Republican candidate for vice president is vocally for open source AI. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. A quick note before we get into today's show. American political discourse is right now extraordinarily contentious. And I'm sure there will be many of you, because I've heard from you in the past, that would prefer that I did not discuss anything having to do with the presidential campaign, even in the context of artificial intelligence. My position on this is that the candidates who are now competing are going to have outsized impact, at least on the discourse surrounding AI, and in at least some cases in the policy of AI, and any honest accounting for the development of the space right now has to incorporate this particular discourse. What I can promise is that I will not get into deeper questions around the presidential election outside of these issues, as there are plenty of sources for that. So with that said, let's talk about what former President Donald Trump's vice president pick, JD Vance, has said in the past about artificial intelligence. First of all, it's worth noting that Vance has been in and around Silicon Valley and technology for some time now. Starting in 2013, he was a principal at Mithril Capital, which was one of Peter Thiel's funds. A few years later, in 2017, Vance stayed in venture capital but left Mithril and joined AOL founder Steve Case's Revolution. TechCrunch says that move happened because Vance's wife had landed a job as a Supreme Court clerk. A couple years later, in 2019, TechCrunch reports that Vance raised funds for his own firm called Naria Capital. By the beginning of 2020, that firm had raised $93 million out of a targeted $125 million, including such notable LPs as Peter Thiel himself, Mark Andreessen, and former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. Vivek Ramaswamy, another person who had been in the discussion for becoming Trump's VP, was also an LP in that fund. In 2022, after winning his election for the Ohio Senate, Vance stepped back from running that fund, Naria. So that's a little bit about Vance's background in technology, but here are the specific comments that have gotten people interested when it comes to his perspective on artificial intelligence. Let's listen in.
Very often CEOs, especially of larger technology companies that I think already have advantaged positions in AI, will come and talk about the terrible safety dangers of this new technology and how Congress needs to jump up and regulate as quickly as possible. And I can't help but worry that if we do something under duress from the current incumbents, it's going to be to the advantage of those incumbents and not to the advantage of the American consumer.
So clearly what we have here is someone who is more concerned around the regulatory capture risks from early or over-regulation of AI than they are from free market competition around AI. He's also participated in the debates around so-called woke AI. You might remember back in March when VCs Vinod Khosla and Mark Andreessen got deep into a discussion around open source and AI, where at one point Vinod asked, "Mark, would you open source the Manhattan Project? This one is more serious for national security. We are in a tech economic war with China and AI that is a must win." Vance quote tweeted that and said, "There are undoubtedly risks related to AI. One of the biggest, a partisan group of crazy people using AI to infect every part of the information economy with left-wing bias. Gemini can't produce accurate history. ChatGPT promotes genocidal concepts. The solution is open source." He continues, "If Vinod really believes AI is as dangerous as a nuclear weapon, why does ChatGPT have such an insane political bias? If you wanted to promote bipartisan efforts to regulate for safety, it's entirely counterproductive. Any moderate or conservative who goes along with this obvious effort to entrench insane left-wing businesses is a useful idiot. I'm not handing out favors to industrial-scale DEI BS because tech people are complaining about safety." I share the quote in full because, of course, the part of the technology space that is excited about open source is honed in on this quote, "The solution is open source." And absolutely, that's the conclusion that Vance has come to. But it is also worth noting that the particular reasons for coming to that conclusion are pretty firmly anchored in the culture war, which eats everything else in American politics as well. For some, that doesn't matter. Entrepreneur at IRL Dan says, "Not that I've ever been a single issue voter. I've never voted for Republicans for prez. But there's a not insignificant chance the issue of open source AI outweighs all the others combined, and I did not have it on my bingo card that any of the candidates would have a policy opinion on this." I think this is something that I've seen a lot. People being surprised and not having previously known much about Vance that he would even have an opinion on this area. Active AI safety discussion participant Robin Hansen writes, "Did a little learning about JD Vance after his nomination. Disagree with some stuff, agree with others. But my main impression is this guy is smart, at least comparing to most politicians at his level. Yes, smarts can be used for good or ill, but ... To some extent, the nomination of Vance exposes a dividing line that has gotten clearer and clearer in Silicon Valley and the technology industry itself. It's not just in the context of AI that Vance has been outspoken about his concern around how much power big tech has. At the same time, it's clear that a big part of his power base is from a certain sector of technology. The Daily Beast writes the nomination of JD Vance as Donald Trump's running mate was reportedly backed by a whispering campaign from Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and David Sachs. Writes the Daily Beast, Trump was still taking calls from influential friends and insiders on his VP hours before he announced the decision. Certainly, Elon Musk was vocal about his approval, writing Trump Vance resounds with victory. And as many have pointed out, Peter Thiel was a huge backer of Vance, not only by giving him his first venture capital job, but also by donating a reported $15 million to his Senate campaign. At the time, it was reported to be the largest amount ever given to boost a single Senate candidate. So what to make of all this? Like I said, the role of the AI Daily Brief is not to get into the American political landscape beyond its context for artificial intelligence. However, what I think it's safe to say is that you have someone in Vance now as Trump's running mate that, one, puts the AI question on the agenda in a way that perhaps it wouldn't have if Trump had made a different decision, and two, who it appears his strong starting bias is towards less regulation, more competition, more antagonism towards big tech and the current set of AI incumbents, and an embrace, for reasons you may agree or disagree with, of open source as an answer to those concerns with big tech. If and as more discussions of AI come up in this campaign, we will of course cover them. But for now, that is the report from here. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace.